Hi, my name's John and I'm the founder and director of Austin Center for Design. I want to talk today about design process. Design process is the way the designer thinks about and goes about solving a problem. And the process is repeatable. That means that the same process can be used if a designer is taking on something small, like a coffee mug, or something really complicated, like a banking website. The process has several stages and steps, and each one of them can be sort of methodized and done rigorously. Typically, a designer will start with something called design research. They'll go out into the world and they'll look at people and they'll watch what people do in a certain context. If the designer's working on a coffee mug, they might watch people make and drink coffee. If the designer's working on a banking website, they might watch people bank, and that might require going to a bank, going to an ATM, sitting with users in their homes as they do online banking in their living rooms, and really starting to understand all of the wants, the needs, and the desires about banking. Part of the whole point of design research is to gain empathy with end users and really to understand the opportunities that exist for design-driven changes. Some of these become obvious during design research, like, wow, that flow is really hard to use, or that interaction is really difficult. And those become sort of what we would consider low-hanging fruit of design changes. They're easy to do, and you know that they're going to pay off. But design research also leads to sort of hidden desires and awareness of design insights. Design insights are unique because they're not always true. They're things that you feel could be powerful additions to a product or changes that might make something more desirable, but you're not entirely sure, and in that uncertainty is the power of them. They drive toward innovation, and that innovation may or may not be successful. After the designers gathered a whole bunch of data through design research, they'll typically go on to some form of design synthesis. Synthesis is a complicated way of saying thinking really hard about the problem. But synthesis happens through an external process, and this is where you'll find designers working with sticky notes and whiteboards and drawings and sketches on the back of napkins and things, really trying to understand the relationships between the different and disparate pieces of data that they gathered and trying to extract those meaningful insights. Synthesis is pretty neat because it's interpretive, and that means that it's individual. And so if I were to synthesize the same data that you were to synthesize, we'd get different results, and that's okay. That speaks to the power of the method as again, driving innovation in a deeply personal and meaningful way. After a designer goes through that process of synthesis, which might take weeks, they go through an iterative process of design where they make things. And those things might first take the form of scenarios, stories. Those stories might get created into a visual form in the style of like a comic strip or a storyboard. And those stories serve to illustrate interaction over time, how people grow with the product, how they relate to it, where there are human-to-human handoffs that occur. The purpose of a narrative, of a story, is to illustrate how time actually plays a role. And so sometimes you can talk about how people learn, or how they grow frustrated, or how they grow confident over time through those stories. The stories take a more refined version through things like wireframes or product sketches or service design roadmaps, which are essentially blueprints of visualizations of the actual service, product, or system that is to be designed. And those sort of increasingly grow in fidelity as the idea grows and matures. The last stage of design is typically that of evaluation, where we do different types of testing to understand how we did. We can do user testing to understand if people can understand and use our products. We can do market validation to understand if people will buy our products. And there's a number of different ways to understand how people will behave once these products become a part of their lives. But the process that's been described here is nowhere near as clean and linear as I've described it. It's much more fluid and organic because a designer is constantly looping back and learning and thinking and revisiting different previous ideas. You could do evaluation at the beginning once you have a quick napkin sketch. You might get all the way through production and decide that you forgot a certain feature. And so in that way, an experienced designer becomes more fluid and agile in applying different methods at different points in the process. In that way, a design process truly becomes a unique and pretty personal thing. When combined with maybe a visual style or a sort of a gestural approach, that really starts to speak to what an individual designer can bring to the table.